Like always, appreciate you guys coming out and covering Penn State football. Couple things just to cover with you guys from really last week. Going back and watching the film was good. It was about what we anticipated, in terms of how it felt during the game, and then be able to watch a tape and go through and grade it. I think you guys already seen players of the games and things like that. One of the things I think was interesting is if you do a statistical comparison between our West Virginia game last year and our West Virginia game this year, no one's really talking about our defense, and our defense really played well. If you look last year, we gave up 15 points. This year we gave up 12. So we were better in that. We were better in points per possession. We were better in explosive plays. We were better in total yards allowed. We were better in rushing yards allowed. We were better in yards per carry. We were better in yards, passing yards allowed, yards per attempt. Third down efficiency was exactly the same, which was interesting. We were better in average third down yardage forced. We were better in takeaways. The only category we weren't better in was sacks. We had 3 last year. We had 2 this year. Red zone touchdown percentage, we were better. Time of possession, better. And then QBR significantly better of the opposing quarterback. So, I think on a real positive note, our defense played better. And then not only did they play better, they played better on the road without the home environment. So those were positive. Turnover battle, you guys know we won. Explosive play battle, we won. Third down battle, we won. Sack battle, we won. We got to clean up, really drive start. And when I say clean up, drive start, I didn't feel like we kicked the ball as well as we're capable of kicking. That is kickoff, that is punts, that is field goals, really all 3 phases. And then penalties. We just gave too many yards away trying to be aggressive, and we got to eliminate those things. So a lot of positives there. Few more notes, in terms of offensively, defensively, and special teams. Positives on offense, we were explosive and physical. We got to be better in ball security and some of the pre-snap things. Defensively, we did a great job stopping the run. We limited explosive plays. I think we only had 1. Sudden change response, that takeaway was huge. That was a huge play in the game. And then 0 points in the third quarter. I think you guys also know, I think we have the longest streak in the country of not giving up a touchdown to start a game. So that's been a real positive for us. Areas for growth, the penalties, just overall communication and substitutions. And then special teams, I thought we played really physical. There's some really physical clips on tape from our special teams. And then opportunities for growth, like I talked about, we got to kick the ball a little bit better. We did have a substitution error, and then we did have to burn 3 timeouts, 1 on offense, 1 on defense, and 1 on special teams. So that's not what we're looking to do. And then for this week in Bowling Green, Scott Loeffler, the head coach there, we know Scott, pretty well. Been a guy that's, been in this conference, obviously played at Michigan. We know them very well. Frank Leonard and him were on staff together at Boston College. So I got a ton of respect for him and his career and what he's been able to do. You look at them offensively, it's essentially his offense. He calls the offense, has done that for most of his career. And they did a really good job and put up big numbers this past week. They're a run-first offense predominantly, but they do a good job at the quarterback position and taking shots where appropriate. We've been impressed with their tight end number 0, Harold Fannin, their running back number 4, Terrion Stewart, and then their quarterback, Connor Bazelak, who also has got some history here in the Big Ten as well. And then defensively, Steve Morrison and Sammy Lawinson running the defense over there. And, from what we've seen on tape so far, they're going to create some challenges. I would say looking at their team in general, they're a bigger, more physical team than what I anticipated. You look at them on film, but then also look at their numbers. They're a big physical group. This is a team that's going to play combination of odd and even front. They're primarily a middle of the field open defense, but they will close it up and play some zone cover 3 and a decent amount of pressure as well. Guys that we've been impressed with is their cornerback number 1, their defensive end number 5, and then their linebacker number 3. Very, very productive players. And then on special teams, Alex Bayer does a nice job for them in coordinating their special teams. Right now, their rankings and statistics are really good. Obviously, they returned the opening kickoff of their game for a touchdown. Their kick returner number 20 and their punter number 41 are guys that we've been impressed with. So still early in the week, kind of figuring out who they are right now, putting the game plans together. Obviously, we do not have practice today. It's a game planning day for us, and the players are in the building watching film on their own. And then Tuesday we'll have practice, and then see you guys out there for a portion of practice. No changes on the depth chart at this time, and no changes to the red, yellow, or green list that you guys are aware of. So open up to questions.
Let's go to Rich Scarcella on Zoom, followed by Frank Bodani.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. James, Smith Vilbert is somebody who more or less missed 2 seasons, and I was just wondering, to see him have the impact he did Saturday, and what was going through your mind, and also what do you think kept him going to persevere through everything?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is I think you guys remember me talking about Smith as a guy that no one's really talking about, that I think is going to have a big year for us. And a big part of it is it's understandable, right? He missed essentially 2 years of football. But, you're talking about a guy who was a high-level basketball player when we recruited him. He's 6'6", he's 280 pounds, he can run, he can bend, he's aggressive. And he's mature. You got a mature football player. So, I'm proud of him. He's also a guy that got his degree. He's done it right from that standpoint. And I know he's extremely hungry this year with as much time as he's invested to really help this team as much as he possibly can, to help the defense as much as he can. And obviously also to have a big year for himself and for his family. So, I think you guys are going to continue to be talking about him a lot this year. I think there'll be a lot of conversations about him, on a national scale as well. Those guys are hard to find. Guys that, have a chance to be physical against the run, but it can also be disruptive as pass rushers. His length is an issue for people. But, I'm really proud of him. I think he's going to have a big year, and I'm glad you asked about him.
Let's go to Frank Bodani, followed by Mark Wogenrich. Frank may have hopped off. Let's go to Mark Wogenrich and then Mike Gross.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You mentioned specifically a lot about the defense. How did you think Abdul Carter did in his first go-around at that, playing mostly at defensive end?
Yeah, I think he, to your point, I think he predominantly played defensive end, except with some of the, some of the third down packages where we just kind of move him around. But yeah, I thought he played really well. He was disruptive. We talk all the time in our building about, real football people study more than just statistics. So there's times where, he's taken on 2 blockers where a couple of them I think could have been called holding, where he's splitting 2 blockers and they're unable to come off on either a linebacker or another defensive lineman, gets the sack or the tackle for the loss. Obviously there's some of the, the pre-snap and the post-snap penalties we got to get cleaned up for sure. But overall, I thought his first game as a full-time defensive end was very disruptive, and I think he's just going to get better each week. You guys know there's been a bunch of buzz about him for his ability on the field, but I'm also really proud of his growth off the field. We were able to have some conversations yesterday about the penalties and just the way he approached it, his maturity, his ability, to take some constructive criticism and be accountable for it was really, really impressive. So I'm proud of him. I think he's going to have a big year for us, and I think he's setting himself up for really bright things in his future as well.
Let's go to Mike Gross, followed by Johnny McGonigal.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You kind of anticipated my question with your opening stuff about the defense, but thinking about last year as a barometer and against West Virginia, and what your defense, became last year, it seems like you're a little ahead of where you were last year based on that West Virginia barometer. So why do you think that is, if indeed that is?
Well, I think it's a small snapshot, right, for all of us, offense, defense, and special teams. And for us, we just got to say, okay, these are the things we did well. These are the things we got to do better. And then, find a way to work on these things each week and refine and get better. So I think your point is a fair one, but it is a small amount of data. But it's a really good starting point because I think West Virginia's offense is going to give people problems. It gave us problems last year, specifically running the ball. We went into that game with a ton of respect for their O-line, with a ton of respect for their quarterback and the two running backs, and we still feel that way. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is that's a team that prides himself on running the ball, and they weren't able to be overly productive against us running the ball. And then if you look at the quarterback's QBR last year compared to this year, it was a significant difference. So I think it's a really good starting point. It's a foundation to build on, but we got to build on it and we got to get better.
Let's go to Johnny McGonigal, followed by Neil Riddell.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What was your assessment of Anthony Donko at right tackle?
Yeah, we're real high on Anthony. He's such a conscientious young man. He's extremely intelligent, both from a football IQ standpoint, but also, in the classroom. And he's very, very athletic. There's a lot of good signs about his habits early on, as you guys have heard me talk about before he committed to us, before he became, a national recruit. And I think we had 6 camps. He came up to every single camp with his mom and 2 brothers. And that's kind of the approach he's taken. He's just got a workman-like approach and just continues to get better. Played really well in the bowl game, which gave us some excitement about, what his future could be. And then, we thought he went out and played really well in week 1. So, you can't have enough guys that are 6'5" plus and 330 pounds and can move like him. And again, the consistency and the intelligence that he has. So, he's another guy that, I think is just going to get better and better as the year goes on. We also plan on playing Rucci more, getting Rucci some opportunities as well. But Donka's playing, really well in the 2 games that we've been able to kind of watch him and evaluate him. But it's also what we see in the weight room. It's what we see in, summer workouts and winter workouts, and what we saw, throughout training camp too.
Let's go to Neil Riddell, followed by Mark Brennan.
Hey, James. I
Hey,
was
Neil.
wondering, happy Labor Day there.
You too.
Xander's miss, I know you look like you showed confidence in him, to take that shot. Would you have liked to have got him, a closer field goal for to get started with? Can you walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, the plan was there to either go for it on fourth down. If I remember correctly, I think it was like 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 9 at the time. And we were planning on going for it and trying to get it to 4th and 5 or, a shorter field goal. I think we ran the ball in that situation. I think we ran an option play with Bo, and I don't think we gained a whole lot. So now you're stuck in a tough situation. Do you want to go for it on 4th and 10? Didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. Take a shot at a field goal, or sky punt. We had sky punted earlier in the game and kicked it into the end zone, which is like the worst thing you can do in a sky punt situation, because if you do that, then you should have gone for it on 4th down. And obviously we wanted to give him an opportunity to get a field goal and start on the right foot. So not ideal, probably all the way around, offense, and special teams. So I think your question is a fair one. But yeah, we got a ton of confidence in him based on what he did all training camp and what he did all spring ball. And I know he'll make the next one.
Please raise your hand. We'll take a mic to you. We'll start with Mark.
You too, Mark.
What was your assessment of Julian's play? I think you mentioned it with Abdul. A lot of times some people look at a stat sheet and think, boy, there's no numbers there. But overall, how do you think he played in that game?
Yeah, we thought he played really well. There was a couple times where, we tried to get the ball to him, but again, based on coverage, it just didn't play out that way. We definitely want to, get him more involved in this game early in the game. But I think the most important thing is the things that he could control, he controlled. He blocked really well. He ran really good routes. If you go back and watch the play that we threw the touchdown, Bo threw the touchdown to Tyler Warren, that's because of Julian. Julian, basically it's almost like a 3 vertical scheme where he's got to get to the backside hash, but before going to the backside hash, he attacks the safety in the middle of the field and crosses his face, which occupies the safety and doesn't allow him to slide over and get into the window of where we threw the ball to Tyler Warren. And here he is late in the game, still running, great routes to put us in a position to make big plays. You could say the same thing for the ball that we threw to Trey. He runs a corner route, pulls the safety out of the window, allows Trey to get hit, on the skinny post or seam or however you want to describe it, for the touchdown. So the things that he could control played very, very well. And again, just like we talked about earlier, those are the things we talk about in our building. Those are the things that, for these guys' futures that they watch. Obviously, you'd love stats to go with it, and those will come. We're confident in that. But I thought he played very well.
Let's go to Tyler and then John.
Hey, James.
Hey, Tyler.
Bo Prabula and his usage throughout the game early, often. I'm curious how you would kind of evaluate how it went game one and what you ultimately would like to maximize from that situation moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a real positive for us because although Drew obviously is showing he can make plays with his feet, Bo has that ability, maybe at a little bit different level and a little bit more of a playmaker. So being able to get him on the field and really challenge the defense, and we have a ton of different ways that we're going to be able to do that with both of them on the field or just Bo on the field, and ways that we can take advantage of it in just pure runs, pure passes, and then some of the things that we can do, with Bo in the game as a runner, Bo in the game as a receiver, Bo in the game in a lot of different ways. So, being able to each week add to that package so that the defense can't put you into a package, when he comes on the field. If Drew is on the sideline and Bo comes in, they're able to go to a true Wildcat package. And for us, we want to, just like we did last year, try to build as much around this that they can't do that they have to. Even the throw that we just got done talking about to Tyler Warren, that causes some issues now if you just want to put him into a Wildcat package mentality. So all those things are really important. We want to be able to use him throughout the game. That I think I mentioned to you guys after the game, that was the approach in the 2-point play to get started right away, to get him involved as early as possible, and we felt good about the concept. But we want to continue to do that. But we also want to make sure, like I already mentioned, that it's not the same things that you're seeing out of him each week.
John?
Hey, James.
Hey, John.
We saw Caden Saunders on punt returns, but not on offense. Was that related to the bumps and bruises you said that he had, and how do you think the other receivers stepped up without him playing?
Yeah, so we weren't sure if he was going to be able to go, and the plan was as long as the doctors and trainers and Caden felt like he could go, we were only going to use him as the punt returner in the game. On top of that, the way that West Virginia punted the ball, end over end, more of a hang time type of team. We thought it was going to be mainly a fair catch game anyway, so felt like he was able to do that. But we're hoping that we'll have him back, as not just a return man, but also as a receiver this week as well. And then I think your question about the other wide receivers, again, I thought the group played well. We had some other bumps and bruises as well that I think we're through now. But we'd like to get as many guys involved, because I think, one of the things when you talk about balance, is not really the ability to be 50% run, 50% pass in the game. It's having the ability to run or pass in any given situation. But also, like Mike Leach, talked about, balance is also ball distribution. That the defense isn't just concerned about one player that they need to eliminate, that they realize and see through film that there's, 7, 8 guys that can get the ball and can make plays. That's running backs, that's tight ends, that's receivers, and the ball can be distributed across the field, making them defend all 53 and a third and all 120.